as well as a lot of times like the spiritual shaman, wizard style leader as well. And that modern pharmaceuticals have also kind of stolen this science of biochemistry and put a compartmentalization and lid on it and taken away from the natural, where you have a lot of leftover indigenous tribal shamanistic populations still around the world practicing their traditions, but the shaman medicine man often use the plants around them and have better results or just efficient results as modern pharmaceutical. And then the Eastern Oriental as well as like Arabic alchemy practices, and that it's a combination of what Western science recognizes of chemistry and these different plant chemical compounds that we use and now call as drugs, where we super refine them, but oftentimes we either modify them or make them artificially, no longer actually practicing and harvesting the natural chemical products of them and making everything synthetically, at which point it's disconnecting from the life force, the chi, prana, mana, soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it, or see it as a connection to God, whatever way anyone listening wants to interpret it, but that it is the natural way, and that in a lot of ways psychedelics are very similar too, and why they're a rite of passage and shamanistic inclusion in most indigenous and esoteric communities and societies and understandings as well, where and this gets back to the original alchemists making alcohol and essentially inventing alcohol and be calling spirits, that you're taking the spirit of this plant, refining it and using it and then consuming it. And it is that the different oils and flavors of, whether it was rye you're using into it or potato for your vodka, the different plants and the effects, very similar, that psychedelics are one level up, where alcohol is just a disassociative that's disconnecting you from your consciousness and like your higher self, so you don't have to stress, or lets a lot of people with like OCD free themselves of like their constant overthinking and I guess chemical balance of the brain and their conscious connection, where the psychedelic, you're taking the spirit oil chemical of the plant and using it as a bridge to connect your consciousness into the spiritual realm, but you're also getting the distortion of that spirit itself, that plant itself, and that experience of it, as opposed to being able to reach stillness, harmony, and one with yourself and the universe meditatively, and going connecting in that way, similarly as like yogis and grandmasters and as well as remote viewers, even astral projecting, all these different ways. But then you have the clearest interpretation of you and the spiritual universe or realm that you're connecting into. And I've yet to do DMT, but once again, it's like, oh, you're muted, Ben.
I said, oh, wow.
Right?
You're in for a ride. That's
well,
honestly,
I've never crossed over. See, I should rephrase that. I've done it a few times, but never enough, or like at the right way, like place that I actually crossed over or bridged over, sort of thing.
Yeah, you got to dab it a couple times. You got to take a couple hot dabs.
Now I've kind of been waiting to like go to like South America, try ayahuasca there, and DMT and some other special place when the time is right, sort of thing. But rambling on here of the chemistry and biology, and that when you're taking these oils, these essences out of the plants, what the alchemist is calling the spirits or life force of it, that there's the actual science of it, that you are taking these chemical compounds that have different effects on your biological body, whether it's an antibiotic from the fungus or a psychedelic from different plants and fungus as well. Sorry, or like carcinogens. No, that's the wrong one. Anywho, the different drugs that they use. Yes.
Ethnogenics.
And that the alchemists understood this and used this a lot more, as do even the most basic shaman of, or what we call the most basic tribal indigenous groups and their medicine men, shamans, and wisdom keepers, that it is this science and spiritual, esoteric, occult practice and knowledge and connection and science of alchemy that the West has completely turned its back on and gone to the extreme opposite of physicality and physical only, with complete disconnect to the conscious, spiritual, universal, conscious realm, creator, and even conscious creation of everything, starting with one's own self.
Absolutely. And what they're doing with the when they transition from plants, did we lose exotic? What we're doing when we transition from plants to pharmaceuticals is they just basically had, you can't patent natural something that happens naturally. So they had to slightly change the way, imagine basically a little Lego house, and they had to just change some pieces around. And so the same basic pieces are still there, but it's not quite connected the same way anymore. Then they can patent that because that particular pattern is theirs. And the thing about that is the way that interacts with the receptors of your body, it doesn't recognize that as what it was before. Just like with my electrolysis machine right here, that's basically used to make Brown's gas, or HHO. HHO is the same thing as H2O, but no, it's not. Because can you go burn water? No,
different. But I would definitely say they are very, very different.
Chemical composition, he's saying, atomically.
Atomically, they are, well, it depends if you're counting protons and neutrons and electrons.
Actually, yeah, that's a good point.
Perhaps they are somewhat similar, but in terms of their electromotive binds, they are not the same thing at all.
They're not bound together at all the same.
In electromotive force. And you can measure that on a voltmeter on the bench top.
Exactly. So that's what they're doing, is they're just restructuring things. And the thing is they're not taking into account that slight structural change. This is why you have so many side effects compared to the natural thing that they are trying to mimic, because your body's like, well, it's not quite right. And so it does these other odd, weird things. And it's all because of structuring, because they can patent a different structure. This is our structure. It's not a natural structure. The natural structure they can't patent at all.
And once again, going to the synthetic chemical compared to the natural, That's why you find that all of these synthetic drugs are exponentially more addictive and consciously consuming, and often turn people into zombies and slaves of this synthetic drug, losing their morals and doing anything to get to it, because they're essentially it's not natural, and that they get addicted to the other realm or the bridge, but in this unnatural way, that they lose focus of their soul themselves and their moral conscious being and their connections in this realm, and all they can focus on is getting that bridge door back to the other realm.
Objectively, electrochemically, the human body responds to having the correct number of protons, neutrons, electrons with any given molecule or atom given to its system, right? So what pharmaceutical companies have done is found a way to patent unique ways in the development of chemical